This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, and I think a little fear. But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's going to be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for Season 4, Episode 4, titled Queens Behind Bars. My name's Joe Betance, and I am joined, as always, by one felonious co-host. First, from the podcast pod, is my co-pilot. Please say...
Get those nuts away from my face.
To Taylor, the Latte Boy. Hello, Taylor, the Latte Boy.
Joseph, bonjour, lady.
Bonjour, lady. Category is cheesecake. Oh, the category is cheesecake. Meanwhile, my mom just arrived from the hospital today. And happy birthday to me. My dad goes, oh, Diana, my brother's mother-in-law, the other mother-in-law, sent your mom a bunch of tiny little cheesecakes.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, huh. You don't say. Anyway, okay, so, by the way, and usually, on the regular show, this is where I say, like, if you're not on Patreon,
I was thinking that, yeah.
You're missing the show. Guys, whenever we announce that we're doing a live show, so we did these live on the expensive tier, even though the exclusive tier is getting them later. If you're not listening, we did essentially it was a real Just Between Us Girls, because Just Between Us Girls has become a show.
Yeah,
this was legitimately me and you talking.
Yeah, with a couple of very special people just kind of getting to listen in.
Yeah, and Jordan Darling alone, it all kind of being summoned. Did he ever respond to his being summoned?
No.
Interesting. Huh. Anyway, so if you're not listening to the live show, you're missing a lot. And even though I have them, I'm not going to ever release them. Thank you.
No, not this one. You can't release that one.
I know I can't. No, I know. All right. Well, this week the queens put each other into quick drag and post their mugshots. Then, in the main challenge, the girls make their network TV debut when they act in the new sitcom Hot in Tuckahoe. On the runway, the dolls dress for the red carpet. In the end, Latrice Royale is named the winner of the challenge, while Madame LaQueer and Milan are placed in the bottom two. After the lip sync, Milan is told, Shantae, you stay, while Madame LaQueer is asked to sashay away. Taylor, the Latte Boy, go ahead and name 2 things you liked about the episode and 1 thing you did not.
I'm very torn about this episode because the thing that I liked about it was that I remembered very little about it. So it almost felt like a new episode. I knew that the fight was coming up, and I kind of remembered that this was the week that Madame LaQueer went home, but I didn't really remember a whole lot about it as a whole. So it was enjoyable watching it in that regard. And kind of dovetailing into that, much like when we reviewed season 5, I watched it with different eyes. I watched this fight with different eyes. And it kind of changed, to some degree, it changed my perception of the fight. So in that regards, I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit. And especially now that I know more about the machine that is this show. The thing that I did not like was... There's something about the mini challenge, the actual photographs, that to me feels sort of problematic. Like, it's one of those things that they couldn't necessarily get away with doing that now, because it felt like you were making fun of low educated people, obviously people of color, people with bad dentistry, you know, people with drug issues, like a lot of that, like you couldn't get away with it. So watching it now, watching a 2011 show or whatever year this came out with 2021 eyes was a little like, oh, I don't know that I care for this.
So let me ask you this question. How do you know, everyone listening, because even the people who get this the soonest, they're listening in about a month or two after we tape this, is how, you know, but what's just aired here in this present time is we've just watched Drag Race UK episode 3, I believe. Did you watch it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you did. You watched it last night. Oh, I played a hilarious joke on Taylor. Taylor, I had called Taylor and he didn't answer. And he texted me back and said, I'm watching Drag Race UK right now. I'll call you after. And I sent home, just in case people are listening live, I sent home the name of the person in the bottom 3 who's not in the bottom 2. Because then that way I knew he would sweat.
And I sweat a little bit because that was one of those bottom 3 that really any of the 3 of them could have got called.
Yeah,
so
I said,
there was a little bit of that.
I went, so such and such a person goes home. That's all I responded. And I was so amused with myself going like, I can already see him sitting next to Babalu going, I hope he's joking. I hope, you know, if he's not joking, I'm quitting the show. I'm quitting the show. That's it. I'm quitting the show.
And as I told you, for about half a second, that played in my head. And then I thought, he's not the drama. Is he the drama? He's not the villain. Joe's not the villain.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, you never know. Like, I could be the Agatha Harkness. Is that her name?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I could be the Agatha Harkness.
It was Betance all along.
Yeah. But anyway, for the mini challenge on that episode, the one on Drag Race UK, they didn't do women, but they had to be like butch, and there was sort of the same thing, don't you think, or no?
Yeah, but I also didn't necessarily find that funny.
True. Good point. But did you find it offensive?
No, I did not.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something about this that just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. That's all.
All right. 2 things I like about the episode. I think, you know, it's an iconic episode. There's a reason it's an iconic episode. I mean, like, you know, we always say, like, what's the one thing you didn't like? But it's one of these things where even the things that I could go on and on about the different things I didn't like, and we'll talk about them today, but they're not necessarily criticism of the show as much as they're like, no, they're iconic things to not like. Like, it's iconic to not like Billy B. He's obnoxious. You know? That lip sync is obnoxiously off. It's terrible. Like, that's one of the messiest, awful lip sync I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. I mentioned that. That's in my notes at the end. Yes.
Yeah. And so in that respect, there's a lot in this episode to even talk about, you know, and to point out and to mention. And so, like, in that respect, I like it too. And I've said it before in these kinds of shows. I don't know why they don't do the 40 minutes without commercial episodes anymore. They're so tight and maybe that will just sort of makes it, the episode doesn't meander. To go back to that Drag Race UK episode I was talking about, I think it's like an hour 10 or something, hour 15.
Yeah.
And it feels it. You feel every second of that. It's like that mini challenge went on way too long, you know?
Yeah.
And so in those 40-minute episodes, they're just so tight and so good. And maybe sometimes you might want a few extra minutes, but no.
And I said that's the first note that I have for the first act, is that it's weird how I've gotten so used to them all coming in and de-dragging that they've done for the last 4 or 5 seasons on, you know, of the current seasons of Drag Race. So where they just kind of come in the morning, where they just do a previously on, they play the intro, and then they all come in the morning. It's very like, whoa, did I miss something?
Yeah.
I think we've become conditioned to this, where we're watching this, and you and I watch it live with commercials. So by the time you get through everything, it feels like it's like, you know, it's 2 full hours at least.
Yeah, because you have Untucked, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Is there anything else? Well, I mean, then the other thing I like was all the iconic lines. I mean, there's so many iconic lines.
Yeah.
In this episode, the fight, the get those nuts away from my face. Are you talking about beavers or ew? I mean, like, I kind of like the smell. Yeah, there's just so much going on here, and it's a great episode. All right. After the princess's elimination, the queens praise Dita Ritz for her iconic lip sync. Sharon's shocked to have won 2 of the first 3 challenges and hopes the pageant girls back home are seeing her success. Next, RuPaul entered the workroom to announce this week's mini challenge. The girls will be split into pairs and handcuffed to one another. They need to apply their partner's makeup and then pose for mugshots. Willem and Madame LaQueer go blue and win the challenge. Let's stop right there. Taylor, any big thoughts on the walking in and the talking to Bubba and the talking to Sharon, this and the mini challenge and the handcuffs? What are your thoughts here?
I would say I wrote a note that I don't understand why I wrote it. Yes, I do. The mini challenge itself, I said I did not like it. However, I did like the idea of you have to paint each other's faces and you have to be handcuffed. I thought that was a fun way to add on to the challenge. And you saw all of the queens, you saw them all like the, oh shit, kind of thing. But it also is where they're all in to have fun with it. And it seemed like everybody was having a good time during that. I thought the idea of the dye packs was a really clever way to stand out.
Yeah.
I find it that it was very, very, very clever. And I thought of all of the contestants, if one person had to win, Chad was actually my favorite. I thought Chad was the one that actually looked the most like she was actually getting a mugshot done, and she was like upset about it versus everybody else just kind of did the weird, like, oh, I'm slutty and sexy,
Yeah, or crazy. Yeah. I want to go. Yeah, I have a lot of these notes too. I think it was a really good mini challenge. I agree with you. There could be some problematic things there, maybe, because I think they were also portraying them as trans women or women in drag who broke the law. So maybe like street work. So there could be like a weird sex worker shaming kind of thing. Yeah. But the concept of the mini challenge where they're handcuffed and they do each other's makeup is a really good idea, which I wish we would have seen more of that. They just sort of just happened, because they didn't have as much time, which I also appreciate. There is a moment when they're doing the photo shoots and Chad walks in with his partner, I don't remember who it is, and falls down with Sharon. And I was like, was the fall on purpose? Was that part of the character? Because it looked, I think she fell pretty hard.
They were both, I think they said that they were public drunkenness. Public intoxication. So I think that was supposed to be where he was playing the character.
And so, again, to sort of go with what's going on right now, one of the things I think I get a sense this is what you're going to talk about later, Taylor, is one of the things sort of in the Drag Race news is that Dita Ritz went on a podcast and talked about how Sharon used to just liberally use the N-word backstage. Okay. And people have commented on this. And recently I saw this on the Reddits where Willem went after somebody for commenting. I can't remember what it was. Maybe almost doubting that Sharon did this. Oh, I think the person was saying, why didn't the other girls say anything? And Willem answered back, kind of clapped back and said that she and Chad and Dita and Latrice did speak to producers and nothing was done. Okay, fine, right?
Okay.
But what I think is weird, in the past couple of episodes I've seen, and maybe Sharon doesn't start saying the N-word till later, like Chad is all up in Sharon and like chooses her for this challenge. On the last challenge when Sharon won, she was like, "Atta girl," and so like I don't know if I necessarily see, but maybe this happens later. I don't know. If you have any thoughts on that.
Well, this is the first I'm hearing about this, unfortunately, and that makes me sad. But I'm not surprised, given what we've heard about Sharon over the last. Oh,
you hadn't heard this Sharon thing?
No. This is the first I've heard about it. again, I'm listening to podcasts from March right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just very, very behind. But, you know, I also think that Chad strikes me as someone who is very, not devious. Devious isn't the right word, but very intentional in her decisions. And maybe just thought, this is somebody that I want to, even though I don't necessarily agree with things that she's saying and I have a problem with it, she is somebody that I kind of want to be near because she is clearly a competitor. And I want to compete against somebody that I want to win against the best. And at this point, Sharon's got 2 wins to Chad's 1 up until this point. So maybe she was just kind of keeping an eye on her in that way. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah. I also want to go back to another moment actually before this. This is after the princess's elimination. And, you know, Sharon's talking about how back home, the pageant girls, this and that. And Fifi says in a confessional, essentially, that Sharon owes the win to her. And I wrote down here, like, she's crazy. She's a crazy person. This is a crazy person talking. I don't know if you had thoughts on that.
Well, we'll get to that, I think, more to during the fight. But yeah, that sounds to me like producers are saying, why don't you say this? Kind of thing. I can't believe that Fifi would be that delusional to think that she is responsible for the win, because ultimately Sharon had to sell the character last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, after the photo shoot, RuPaul announces the main challenge. The queens will star in the new hit television show Hot in Tuckahoe. There'll be 2 randomly determined teams captained by Willem and Madame LaQueer. Team Willem consists of Jiggly Caliente, obviously Willem, Latrice Royale, Fifi O'Hara, and Chad Michaels, while Team Madame LaQueer has Madame LaQueer, Dita Ritz, Sharon Needles, Kenya Michaels, and Milan. The next day in the workroom, Madame LaQueer assigns Kenya the butch role. The queens have trouble learning their lines. Sharon Needles gives Kenya English lessons. Jiggly can't pronounce or define horticulture, and Madame LaQueer decides her character is British. Any thoughts here on everything that happened in the workroom pre-table visit? Taylor's Latte Boy.
Well, one thing of note that's in my personal life is that my co-host on Pod is My Co-Pilot, her daughter, she and I watched this season together. She was, I believe she was like 11 or 12 when this was on. So we were very much, we were watching, we would talk about it when I would go over to their house and all that kind of stuff. And for Christmas that year, Taffy bought her daughter a pair of these shoes, autographed
by RuPaul.
By RuPaul, yes. Oh my god! That they are in a acrylic box in a closet someplace at this point. So there is a pair of these shoes within a 15-mile range of my house.
Is the shoe itself autographed or the boxes?
You know what? Let me text her. I am not 100% sure. I think it is the shoe. It was never, the shoes were never worn. The shoes are enormous. Yeah. But I do know that. But so let me text her while we're talking. But
all right, well, you do that. I'm gonna be a good broadcaster and sort of give my thoughts on what was going on. You know, there's a moment where Madame LaQueer, Sharon is trying to help Kenya pronounce some of the words. She's trying to work through and helping her phonetically say it. And Milan is right next to her going like, bitch, you gonna let her take over? You gonna let her do that? And I'm like, were you here last week, Milan? You were doing worse when you were on Kenya's team. And
and I didn't see that as a leadership thing. I saw that as a teammate helping another teammate out.
Yeah, and Madame LaQueer can't help her, even though I'm not sure Madame LaQueer is aware of that. Yeah. I think Madame LaQueer thinks she doesn't have an accent.
Why do you think that they, this week, especially a week when Madame LaQueer isn't in the possibility of being the last one picked, that they had them pick from a box versus allowed the teams to pick? Do you think that they were afraid that she was going to get picked last again? So they're like, we have to set up something so that she's not the last one picked, and like, oh shit, she won. Oh, well, we'll just keep doing it anyway.
Do you think perhaps they were afraid it would be very lopsided? So it would be Willem, Milan, all the really good girls, and then to be like Madame LaQueer and Kenya and all the weaker girls, especially in the language on it. I don't know.
They bring the princess back.
Yeah, they bring the princess back just to be in the episode.
Kelly Mantle shows up for some reason.
Yeah, she 2 seasons ahead of when she's supposed to be on. Naisha Lopez just runs in the workroom and goes, "I'm back, bitches!" And everyone's like, "Who are you?" On the wrong season. Also, this is a weird, bigger topic. Okay, but it's something that struck me.
What'd you call me?
It's a note that I took here, and I'm going to talk about it here. I remember this season liking Willem a lot, and now on a rewatch, I'm like, he's very unlikable.
No, Willem was very unlikable. Willem is someone who I have grown to appreciate more. Especially as it gets closer to the end of Willem's run with the season, there's parts that I'm like, oh, there's like mental health stuff going on with her. So, which now, according to the way that she says it, she says it was all calculated, everything she was doing, and that she decided she didn't want to be there anymore. So she decided to be a shit stirrer. But there are parts of it that are just very weird. But no, she's not likable at all.
Do you really buy that, though? I don't buy it. I think she saw her performance and was like, oh, that wasn't very good. So now she's like, I was doing it on purpose.
I think when you get towards the end, and part of this, again, may be that they couldn't keep certain parts in the edit. I feel like that level of crazy that she kind of was acting towards the end, you can't really hide that. You can't make up an excuse for that at that time, unless you're saying, look, I've gotten better, but I was really crazy then. I think that she has enough, or at least she's had enough time to create a narrative that makes sense to me when you listen to it, when she talks about the season on Race Chaser.
I'm having trouble wrapping. So you do believe her or don't believe her?
I do believe her.
Oh, you think it was calculated?
I think it was calculated, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Let's talk about Madame LaQueer's accent. How she decided she was going to do a British accent because she's an actor and she's been in 2 plays and whatnot. What were your thoughts on this accent? What were you thinking about everything that was going on here?
It's delusional. It doesn't sound like any accent I've ever heard from any dialect in the history of mankind. It was just a weird. There's something about her that is very. Anything I say here is going to come off as mean, but delusional is really the only thing that I could think of. It didn't make any sense. And the fact that, I appreciate, as much as I'm not necessarily a fan of Milan right now with the trying to take over with leadership and stuff. But when she says to her, well, you do you then, because at that point I figured Milan's like, well, then we know who's going to be in the bottom if you're going to do this, and then hopefully I'll be safe. So just the fact that even though she was saying this, she didn't have. It just wasn't a good idea. It was just delusional. It was just completely delusional to think that this was going to be a good idea. In her head, I think it was something that it could never actually be.
Well, what's funny is I'm jumping ahead here. I think she heard it and thought that she nailed it. I mean, that kind of comes up on the main stage.
Well, but you see that with bad actors and bad actresses all the time, where they think they know what they're doing. I just saw a clip, somebody that I follow on Instagram, it was a show that came on a couple of seasons after American Idol, of where they took really bad singers and they did a show where they thought they were actually going to have like a record like contract and stuff. And it was really kind of to make fun of these people. And you see these people are genuinely like, they think that they are the shit and they're trying to hit all of those weird notes and stuff. And you can see it's like Tone Loc, Vitamin C, and like one other person that are sitting in this like room, like watching them sing and trying. Like you can see the blood trickling out the side of their mouth where they're biting their tongue. And this may be where she kind of is in that same level of, oh, well, I completely sound British and I completely sound like I am this woman of upper crust that is I'm going to nail this. This is my chance to really kind of show my comedy chops. And again, delusion.
It was completely crazy and delusional. I'll tell you what, Taylor, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the episode. We'll do that right when we get back from the break.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped, streaming June 4th, only on Hulu.
All right, Taylor the Latte Boy. Let's move on here. During the table visits, Willem brags about appearing on Sex and the City. Milan critiques Madame Lequier's directing, and Latrice Royale's excited to be the prison guard and not the prisoner. Any thoughts here on these table visits?
I wrote down that Willem talking up her resume makes sense. That is one of those where you are putting yourself out there. She is somebody who, like her or not this season, she is willing to kind of do what she needs to stand out. And if she has something that, to the best of everybody's knowledge, none of these other girls have at this point, where I have an extensive acting history, then of course I want Rue to know that. I've got the stuff to back it up.
But you don't think Rue already knew that she cast her on the fucking show?
Well, okay, yes, I know that, but they're doing this for the show, and it also is where you're kind of promoting, of where she's pretty much saying that, knowing that she is going to either do really well, or, as we've seen many times, as we saw with Milan this week, where she was just like, I have a degree in acting, so I'm good. This is the challenge that was made for me. Mm-hmm. Then it gives them an opportunity to fall flat on her face. But I think Willem thought, well, this is my way of kind of showing that I'm.
But it was
awesome.
Kind of gross the way she did it, where she.
Oh, it is gross. Yes, It absolutely is gross. But Willem is kind of gross this season. Yeah,
she's like, I based her on Samantha from Sex and the City because I was in Sex and the City with Samantha, and you were like, ew.
Yeah,
what is this? It's so gross. Thank you. I do love, the only note I have for this scene is that RuPaul's giving them acting comedy lessons. Mm-hmm. I love when Michelle and RuPaul give acting and comedy advice. It's one of my favorite things. It would be the equivalent of me giving someone advice on how to do karate or shoot a basketball or have sex with a woman. It's really like, no, I don't know what they were thinking. Yeah. Any other thoughts on these table visits?
The only thing that I really wrote down was the Willem talking up the resume. That was the only thing I wrote.
It's time to film the sitcoms on Team Willem. Latrice implores the girls to get those nuts away from her face, and Jiggly struggles with timing. Over on Team Kenya, Sharon Needles spars with Rue and Max while dressed as a beaver, and Madame Lequier attempts a Lucille Ball impression. Your thoughts on the filming of the episode, Taylor the Latte Boy?
Well, I mean, this is definitely one of those iconic get those nuts out of my face sort of thing. And you've also got the, that is another example of one of those that we have talked about this in previous seasons of how you can't just parrot what the director is saying to you so they can get it for at least one take. We saw this with Kamora Hall with I was rooting for you, I was rooting for us or whatever. We've seen this with other where they just kind of do it over and over and over again. Do you think it's where your brain just shuts off, or that they can't seem to have that cognitive connect of following along?
Well, is it a weird version of being tone deaf? Like they're just not hearing it.
Yeah, like no, don't move your mouth like this. Move your mouth like this so that you go from ooh to ew. I mean, that's just moving your mouth to where you open up your mouth versus you like press your lips together. So it's, of course, it also could be delusional. She was trying to direct her own character, where she thought that a character like that wouldn't necessarily go ooh. They would go ooh.
Yeah, I think you're right because it's an upper crust woman that she's trying to do. Also, I wonder too, to give her the benefit of the doubt, if I Love Lucy is dubbed in Puerto Rico, and so she doesn't know the Lucy reference. That he's like, maybe that person doesn't do it like that. Maybe that person doesn't go, ew, like
okay. But you're also having somebody do the noise in front of you. It's one thing if she said, if Max said, just do it like do it like Lucy would do, Lucy Ricardo would do, and then she didn't know the reference, but they showed like 3 or 4 times Max going, ooh.
I got the impression that they were repeating the same clip, though. I don't know if they were, but it seemed like they were. Maybe he only did it once. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
If we buy into that, I don't know. It's very strange, but it's what makes it funny.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this Max Munchnick?
I have notes here. He came off as really obnoxious on this episode. I don't know what this person's really like. But speaking of self-producing, but he was going to go in and he was going to be the Simon Cowell and he was going to read them for filth and but blah, 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 blah. Because some of the things I was like, as we know, for instance, he is the co-creator of Will and Grace. Okay.
Yes.
And he, is I imagine that they were the showrunners. I don't know, but I'm assuming they were. And as we know that, years later after this, they rebooted Will and Grace, and famously, Megan Mullally and Deborah Messing did not get along and were not even in scenes together. Do you think if they were fighting, he was like, hey, this is TV, don't do that? Like, he was, that weird F word thing with Sharon was weird because I feel people on TV to go, oh shit, bloopers, practical jokes, whatever, with Ed McMahon and Dick Clark, they were constantly bleeping them.
Right.
Because people would cuss when they fucked up on an episode of a sitcom. It'd be like, B. Arthur would mess up a line and go, oh, fuck you, you stupid cunt. And,
That's one of your standby jokes that you love that mental picture of it. I know somewhere in the world you really hope that she, at the very least, in her trailer, smoking a cigarette, went, that Betty White is such a cunt.
Yeah, like Rose is like, this reminds me of St. Olaf. Oh, just stuff it, you fucking wrinkled old cunt. And then Sophia's like, she's all like, and Rose is like, Sophia, do you mean your nose? No, Rose, I mean my clit. Of course I mean my nose. Like you want them to be really dirty.
Take this cannoli and shove it up your twat.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear last night? That was Blanche was fucking everything that walked in the room, and she was there fucking. I walked it, cum hit me in the face. It was gross. Picture it, Sicily, my Salvatore, just shoving his big sausage down my fucking throat, and I'm just gagging on it. What were you saying?
By the end, I look like a glazed cannoli.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want it to be.
My pussy looked like a chicken parmesan that sat out in the sun all day.
But, Dorothy, why were you with Stan for so many years? Why was I with Stan? He had a big fucking cock. What could I say? I bet you Stan had a big... Do you think Stan had a big cock?
He was a very tall man. I can imagine that it was a sizable member. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Do you find him sexy?
Stan Zbornak? No, not at all.
Well, I'm just saying because you thought this Paul Hollywood was everything. You were saying
Paul Hollywood and Stan Zbornak are two completely different categories.
In my head, they're the same.
Well, because they're over the age of 18. So.
I love that Rue was calling her William, by the way.
Yeah, and that was I will say for Willem, that was quick. You corrected him, but not Rue. Why? You corrected me, but not because Rue's holding a check for $100,000.
That is true. That is true. And why would Max care? I mean, that was so weird. He was so involved. I don't know. I didn't really like him. What were your thoughts on him?
I wasn't a big fan, though. I just always kind of remember anytime seeing him interviewed when Will and Grace was on, just kind of getting that, ew. Okay, we get it. You're a groundbreaker. You've created a sitcom about gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Relax. You know, there was just always something about him that was very ew. I just was never necessarily a big fan.
Mm-hmm. One more thing I would say is, you know who this Anna Navarro is?
Yes.
Don't you think Madame LeQueer reminds you of Anna Navarro?
Oh my God, you're right. Yes, especially with that short wig on in the in their scene.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ooh.
Do you mean Navarro or? Ooh. I kind of like the smell.
Then you have to do that, which makes no sense. No,
Nothing
she does the thing where she clasps her hands, but she does it in this weird...
that's right.
Yeah, it's...
I would love to spend a day in Kenya Michael's brain. To know what was going on in that brain. All right, it's elimination.
No, we're not done. We're not done.
Oh, we're not.
No, we only did we talk about the second group? We only really talked about Latrice's, Madame LeQueer.
No, I talked about them both.
About Sharon's. Oh.
We got them both. Yeah. Sharon Needle spars with Rue and Max. Yeah.
Well, we didn't really talk about that. What were your thoughts on that? I think it was gross.
Oh, really? I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Well, I think that we're just not used to seeing that. And there was it allowed her an opportunity to show growth at the end of the episode when she said listening to notes and everything. But the one thing that I wrote, because these scripts were horrible. These scripts were
always horrible.
But they were particularly horrible. And Max wrote something like, talking about Dita, it's what you dream as a writer to see someone acting your lines this good. And I was sort of like, are you admitting that you wrote this? Like, you're supposed to be this great writer.
Oh, I don't think he wrote it.
I know that, but it is something that you just, I will say this, I thought Dita, the cadence and the way that she did the character, I would see that on a sitcom. I thought that she was the best out of everybody there.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. Even though Chad wasn't bad either.
No, but Chad kind of, I feel like a lot of them just went to the one character was named Julia, which was probably based. I think that was Chad's character was kind of like a Julia Sugarbaker. And it seemed like they all went to the Blanche Devereaux place.
Yeah.
So whereas Dita didn't. Yeah, they all did that, or we all just talked with this Southern accent and where it was very lilty and that doesn't necessarily, you all can't be Blanche and you all can't be Julia Sugarbaker.
Yeah.
And why were they breaking into a nut farm in the middle of the night? Like that made the Justin Bieber thing. I kind of get that, especially because Golden Girls always used to go to really weird concerts and stuff. Like I remember where they went and saw Madonna. Like they talked about how they all went and saw Madonna like in like 1986 or whatever.
Yeah.
So that makes sense in that regard. But something like where they're going to break into a nut farm because Fifi O'Hara loves nuts. It was dumb.
It didn't make any sense.
No, but these things never do.
They never do. And then the guard is openly hitting on them, and then like. But also, you know what the thing is too are we combining the finished product? Because if we're combining the finished product here, then I have other things to say.
We can talk about the finished product. I don't think I wrote any notes.
On the finished product, I have one note for the finished product, which is I love that Milan and Willem are the actors in the group, and they're essentially edited out of the whole thing. They're like their parts are non-existent. Did Milan even have a line in the finished product?
No. Mm-hmm. I don't think they showed her in the finished product.
No, they showed her filming it, but we don't see her really in the finished product.
Mm-hmm.
And Willem barely has a line. So they axed her out too. So I just thought it funny that the actors are the ones who get edited out of the thing. Which I thought was very, very funny. Any other thoughts here? I know you have a lot of thoughts on the sitcom.
I just thought that this, if we're including the final product, the second team was better.
Oh, yeah. That's the nuts one?
Yes.
Yeah. It was better. Because Latrice carried it. I wonder if that would be true. Even though I probably would give it to Madame LaQueer and Kenya just for being rad.
But you enjoy a train wreck.
I love a train wreck. I love it. But
how is Lori?
I know, seriously. I was talking to her about how it's too bad that she works so far away from school. She works so far away from home now, because I thought of a great YouTube show where last school year she worked like a mile from her house, or 2 miles. It was very close. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been a great show if I picked you up in the morning and drove you to school, and then picked you up and we just filmed us talking on the way to and from your school. And, but hopefully she quits this job and I can do that again. That'd be amazing. Wouldn't that be an amazing YouTube show? All right. It's elimination day and the girls get ready for the runway. Latrice takes the girls to church. Sharon calls Fifi a tired-ass showgirl, and Fifi buys Sharon a one-way ticket to Party City, where she belongs. Your thoughts on all things elimination day, Taylor the Latte Boy?
So this is an example of, at the time watching this, I was very pro Sharon and very anti Fifi. And while I am not necessarily a fan of the character they are creating for Fifi, much like we see with All Stars 4, the editing of this is very troubling, because it seems to go from a 2 to a 10 in about half a second, which means there is stuff in between that was cut. And also I'm wondering, because they showed the previously on, and this was the thing that I said earlier, I'm like, I wrote a note, but I don't know what this means, but then I remembered Fifi saying she picked a character for you, versus just go put on your white makeup and just be goth. I'm wondering if there was a conversation before that said, why don't you play a goth character? And that was edited out, because it makes it look much more dismissive if you just have Fifi saying, just put on the white makeup for you. And it takes away, it doesn't make as much sense when Fifi says, so I told you to do something I know you're good at and you won the challenge, but then you threw me under the bus for it. Are you following what I'm saying?
So you're saying that there's stuff we didn't see last week?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I never thought about it that way. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch those scenes, the scene of the last week where she says, just put on white makeup and do your thing. Compared to this, it seems like there is something that is missing. Now, there have been speculation, there's been rumors, there's been whatever, that they both know they have the opportunity to have a moment here and that it could have possibly went too far. But it is, it makes for compelling television. But also, when you think about, in the moment, the first time everybody watched this, it was all like, oh my God, this is a really big fight. Much like we have seen with the infamous All Stars 1 Untucked fight with Mimi I'm First versus everybody. But then when you go back and watch it, that fight doesn't make any sense. This feels kind of the same. If you go back and watch it and just listen to the way they're talking in the beginning until Sharon walks away from her, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I remember watching it. It's so funny to have a different experience, where I was watching it today and I was like, why is Sharon telling Fifi this? Why would she do this? Was she trying to get under Fifi's skin? Because she goes over there and she says, listen, I want you to hear it from me first. Okay. But we were on the main stage and, I was asked about you. I was asked something. I threw you under the bus. And Fifi's like, well, why would you say that? What was said? And she says, I said that you just wanted me to do my goth thing. And Fifi was like, well, Yeah, it's the thing you're good at. And then, but you see, that's the thing is, right, and Fifi does it within a line. She says it really calm, and then she freaks out. But I think that's very Fifi. Like, she plays the scenario in her head, and then Sharon doesn't back down, and then it escalates.
Well, but I feel like there's a part of that where she's...
I want to pull it up.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up. Okay, go ahead.
It feels like that if there is that where she goes from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, that makes sense to make that one shot versus chopping it up. Because it feels like Sharon was probably saying this as an attempt to apologize. And that we didn't see that. Oh I don't know. I mean, she said, I want to say this before it gets out of control. That's why she said she was going to go over and talk to her. But that's why it tells me that this is something where this is concocted. I'm going to go over and we're going to have a discussion about it.
Okay. I think this is it right here. Hold on. Oh, wait. How did that happen? Okay. All right, here. Actually, I jumped right to it. Here we go. So this is this is Sharon in confessional talking about how she's going to go over to Fifi. Here we go.
Makes me feel bad.
Did you work well with Fifi?
She definitely didn't bring a strong leadership role. Basically what she said is, you're spooky, dress like a monster.
Okay, that's from last week. Now, Sharon's walking over to her.
What's up? Well, I don't know if any of the other girls have said anything about it, but I'd rather have you hear it from me now before it turns into much bigger than it was. But in the last runway, I was pretty sure I was in the bottom 2. So I brought you up, and I just wanted to let you know.
What do you mean brought me up? Brought me up how?
Well, basically what I said was I felt that you kind of pushed me into, just doing my spooky look, and that it was irresponsible, and I thought it was kind of sloppy just to...
Because I told you...
Okay, so this is now... She said that. Now, this is where Fifi interrupts her. Okay, here we go.
To do something that you're good at.
Coming up.
I'm the future of drag. You look 20 years ago.
They're doing the commercial break.
Go back to party.
And so they're going to come back right now. But so do you think anything's been cut out yet so far?
No, not yet. Right. And Fifi, that's a good point. That Fifi makes a good point to do something that you're good at. Why would I not? I want our team to win. Why would I not put you in a role that I know that you would do well in?
Okay, so here's what I will say. Even though so far I'm semi-pro Fifi, what I will say, though, is I think what Fifi is... I just talked about this in Alaska Thoughts today. I don't think Fifi is really good at communicating things. And so I think when she said it in the moment, she has a tendency just to be a fucking bitch. So she's like, well, just go put on that white thing and do that goth thing that you do. And now... Okay, but
yeah. Go ahead.
But now she's reframing it.
Well, but I feel like there is something of where if she is assigning characters to people for the previous week's challenge, it makes sense that she would say to Sharon, yes, it could have been dismissive, but she said, you do like a spooky character. And then when Sharon questioned her on something as far as the way we have to do, it was something like, we have to do like, the choreography, we have to come up with this. And she was like, just go put on your white makeup and we'll be fine, because she was feeling very overwhelmed in that moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I feel like there is a part of that, a part of them planning that we did not see, in which Fifi said, without saying, do you want to do something different? I know that you're good at this like zombie vampire queen thing, so just do that. And then was so in her head that she just went, just go, get out of my face
with
kind of thing.
I agree with that.
That's the dismissive part. Okay.
Let's finish this fight here. There's obviously going to be some repeat right here because it's TV.
Last runway, I was pretty sure I was in the bottom 2. So I brought you up. I felt that you kind of pushed me into, just doing my spooky look, and that it was irresponsible. I thought it was kind of sloppy just to...
Because I told you to do something that you're good at?
Well, I wanted RuPaul to know that if she wanted to say that I just kept turning out the same look, it was because you just wanted us to be
as a team leader,
what we always are.
You're an adult. You could have came up to me and said, you know what, I don't want to do this.
I was being realistic.
Realistic was bull because I picked out a...
No. Okay.
Go ahead.
Another fair point.
Mm-hmm.
Another fair point of where she said, well, and she said, I thought I was in the bottom too, so I threw you under the bus before she could say anything.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I think it makes complete sense where Sharon's in the wrong.
No, that's what I'm saying is that this is something where it'd be one thing if she said, how do you feel as though Fifi did as a team leader, and then she threw her under the bus. It's one thing if they said to her, you've done the spooky thing a couple weeks in a row, and she said, I wanted to do something different, but I was told by our team leader, we need to, just do what I'm good at, kind of thing, or say those are two different things. It's one thing to throw her under the bus as the bus is coming, but she set Fifi up, and the bus is still down the road.
Well, you could take it. Yeah, go ahead.
Ended up making a turn because she ended up winning the challenge that week.
You could take it even further in that it's not like I thought I was in the bottom 2, but I was really in the bottom 3. She won the challenge. Okay?
Right.
And RuPaul, if I remember correctly, asked her after the critique. So she'd already gotten these positive critiques. Why would she think she was in the bottom 2?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is this is another example of one of these infamous fights that when you really kind of look at it, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
But it doesn't make, to me, the fight makes sense, but it's like, what was Sharon's motivation? Okay, hold on. Let's keep listening.
Character for you to sit there and do, and you did it great. You obviously won the goddamn challenge.
Because
of me. Because I told you to go in your closet and dig out that goddamn gothic look. So congratulations, you're welcome, because I was the one that sat there and picked that out for you.
Okay, well, if you think that I won
Sharon,
because of you,
face.
you are wrong.
Then what?
It's my
you
talent that gets me to win.
Sharon, you know what? You are not even on the same level as me, so get the out of my face.
Because
get the out of my face.
That's because you won nothing.
Go back and do your only one look that you got.
Oh, I have one look? Tired-ass showgirl.
Showgirl, at least I am a showgirl, bitch. Go back to Party City where you belong.
I'm the future of drag. You look 20 years ago.
Oh, girl, please.
All right.
Okay. So when she goes to the place of, she goes, I told you, see, I was over, you must have had the screen up because I was like waving at you to stop the soundtrack.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was like, oh, what is this?
I'm intrigued. I'm pulled in. But she says at one point, I said to you where, go to your closet and get that outfit, which tells me that there was a conversation which she said, play this part, not just the thing that we saw of the go put on your like white face and your goth outfit and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now the part where Fifi loses me or where she goes, you won because of me.
Mm-hmm.
That is delusional. That is cuckoo crazy bird. But I feel like this is the beginning of we have somebody we could totally paint as a villain for this season, so we're going to do everything we can to give her the villain edit.
Yes. Because she gives them so much to work with. One of the things I talked about in today's Rulaska Thoughts was Fifi essentially has resting witch face. And what I mean is Fifi just naturally comes off as a villain just by being her. I don't think she's a villainous person, but there's just something about the way she moves and acts that just seems shady and shifty, and they're playing it to their advantage.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Taylor. Well, it is now time for the looks.
All right.
As per usual, what we do is, this is, for lack of a better term, we see how right you are because you consider yourself a fashion maven, and we see how correct you come. All right, here we go.
All right, so going in alphabetical order, not in the order that they came down the runway because of the website that we're at, looking at all of these looks. The first down is Chad Michaels, and Chad comes out in a silver outfit with hair that looks very reminiscent of Florence Welch of Florence and the Machine. She said that it was very, I think she said Byzantine Empire or very like medieval, almost looking like a suit of armor. But with sheer pieces to it, and I think that it is a great look. I like it. All right.
I want the record of the show. Remember, last week you got them all right.
I got them all right. So we will see if that happens this time. Next up is Dita Ritz. Dita comes out in a mini dress that I'm going to say is definitely metallic, but I almost want to say like a brown or bronze metallic. It almost looks like a chocolate metallic. Legs for days. I love the outfit. I love her legs in this, though she did need to lotion up because her knees were a little ashy. But I thought she looked beautiful. I liked the hair. I liked kind of the ode to Billie Holiday with the big flower in the side of her hair, and I think this is a great look. Yes. All right. So next up is Jiggly Caliente. Oh dear. So Jiggly definitely has a brand, and this is playing into that brand. It is a yellow dress that feels very 80s, late 80s, early 90s. She described it as kind of like Brooklyn prom. The color is pretty, but we're going to see someone who does the color a lot better later. There's something about this, unfortunately, that is just kind of a sloppy look. So this is not a look that I enjoy. All right. So speaking of yellow, we have Kenya Michaels, who comes out in a beautiful yellow dress with a floral tropical print along the one breast and along the border of the. I'm massacring the fashion terms in this. I love the yellow color on her. I'm not a big fan of yellow, but I think it looks great on her, and the dress flowed with her, and I thought that she was very, very pretty in this. And I liked the splash of color against something that is such a bright color. I like this look. All right. Next up is Latrice Royale, who comes out in a black and blue off the shoulder asymmetrical dress, and her hair in an updo with jewels on her, beautiful bracelet and big jewels on her fingers. Just flawless. I think that she looks absolutely stunning and beautiful in this. A great, great look from Latrice. Oh my gosh. So Madame LaQueer comes out in a very Mother of the Bride dress, and with long curly brown hair. The dress is very matronly, but I also know that she seems to be very limited due to her particular body shape as to what she can wear. So it's okay, but it's not necessarily a great look. The color for this baby shit green color that she has is not a great look. It's not attractive. So this is not, I would consider this not a good look from Madame LaQueer. All right. So next up is Milan, who comes out in a gold dress. That is, I feel like kind of, it's like too much gold. I also found it kind of offensive that Billy B referred to her as a stunning black Emmy Award, which I'm like, why you gotta say black? There's something about that.
I don't know why it had to be a black. I know, it was really obnoxious.
It just was, but again, it's of a different time. That's not something that they would say now. Not that Billy B has been on the show forever. I kind of felt like it was too much gold. Ironically, even though last week we had the metallic, the platinum and gold, there was something about this that the dress was not, I didn't like it. I didn't like the hair. I thought the hair was too plain. You know, they were giving Dita problems, critiques about her hair not being big enough. And this is another example of it, but nobody said it, at least on the show. So not a favorite look of mine from Milan.
All right. Very good. Oh,
thank you. So Fifi O'Hara came out in a white dress with ostrich feathers along the top and along the leg slit with some stonework. I am torn for this because on the one hand, it's a pretty dress, but Fifi has this tendency, and we saw it with, I think, the first or the second challenge, of where she paints older than she actually is. And I felt as though that she looked older here, and we're going to see somebody who does a much better job of it shortly. So I'm going to have to say this is not one of my favorite looks from Fifi.
Would you say she looks like a tired ass showgirl?
Yes, she looks like a tired ass showgirl. All right. Okay. So let's see if I can do this. So Sharon comes out in a black mini dress with a with a shag haircut, a silver shag haircut, and does makeup of where she is painting older. But the thing that I think makes this work is she is playing a character. Whereas I feel like Fifi just kind of comes out. Whereas the dress is wearing Fifi, but Sharon is wearing the dress. And Sharon is presenting a character, and she has a story that she's presenting on the runway. So, and we're also seeing a different look. We have seen over the last 4 weeks completely different looks from her every week. So in that regards, Sharon, I like this look this week.
All right, very good.
Oh my gosh.
Will she do it? Will she do it?
I don't know. This one's tough. So Willem comes out in a Vivienne Westwood dress that with off the shoulder. I have to say there was something about the dress that I did not like. I kind of like Vivienne Westwood is one of those designers that I actually know some of her stuff, and she has some very cool stuff. But I would have never known this was Vivienne Westwood by looking at it. And I thought that I get that it's probably supposed to look where it's that kind of, very, not threadbare, but just kind of off the shoulder and very seductive and stuff. But I don't know that it necessarily worked for Willem. So I am going to have to say that I am not a fan of this look.
I'm equally torn.
Okay.
No. No, I picked the wrong one.
Oh, okay. Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
So, and those were the looks.
Those are the looks. Oh my God, Lori's going to be so mad when she hears these episodes. Lori can never, she can't get a break on these things. All right, on the main stage, Team Willem is safe, and Rue names Latrice Royale the winner of this week's challenge. Madame LaQueer and Milan are placed in the bottom two, forcing them to lip sync for their lives. The song, Trouble by Pink. After all is said and done, Milan is told to Shantae, you stay, while Madame LaQueer is told to sashay away. Taylor the Latte Boy, any final thoughts on the episode? Just get all your thoughts out. Everything we may have missed, everything you feel about the lip sync, everything.
One of the worst lip syncs ever on the show. It was so sloppy. It was just sloppy. Crazy chaos. And the fact that both of them took their wigs off is, I almost wonder if that's what saved Milan, was that they both took their wigs off, because she was the first one to rip her wig off. Mm-hmm. So are we really kind of gotten to that stage in the show yet of where if you take the wig off, that's almost an automatic loss?
Oh, yeah. And I want to know when that becomes a thing. Because, yeah, we know it. Like, I feel like even then everyone's like, ooh, what's going on?
Well, but this is, Willem says, I don't get the taking your wig off in a drag show. It's a drag show, not a, she says something, but and that makes sense. Yeah, it's just not, it's not a...
It wasn't a good lip sync. Madame LaQueer's doing that pointing thing that Jiggly points out.
Right.
And Milan's is messy. That was not a good lip sync. The weird thing with the putting on lipstick on the bottom lip.
Well, I feel like she did that so that she could she could show her mouth movement.
Didn't do that before.
Oh, I don't know, but were they really allowed to do that kind of thing? On All Stars, you see that they usually change their outfits and stuff, but on this one, is it where they just, they just kind of send them back to do the show?
And I couldn't stop staring at that hair that was stuck to Madame LaQueer's mouth, and I was like, "Move the fucking hair!" She had like a piece of the wig was like in her mouth. I couldn't stop staring at it. It was awful. The one thing I want to point out is I love that at one point Max Muchnick tells Dita, like, oh, you were great, you were fantastic, you were like a sitcom writer's dream, you could be an actor, blah, 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 you're amazing, you're wonderful, you're perfect, like Linda Evangelista. And Michelle's like, you have to use lotion. But I'm like...
But you also figure at this point, this was prime Michelle as Simon.
Yeah. And then I love that. But then Max Muchnick was very wrong about Sharon, where he's like, I don't get the name. I don't get anything about her. Maybe he was right. I don't know. I don't like her.
Maybe.
But anyway, that's everything that I got. Taylor, have you said everything you have to say?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each and every episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 4. So, for Taylor the Latte Boy and myself,
sashay away until next week.
Thank you for listening to RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. You can also leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/afterthoughtmedia. Follow us on Twitter at Drag Race Recap. For more access to LGBTQ content, support us over at Patreon at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can follow Taylor the Latte Boy on Twitter and Instagram at PIMCTaylor. Follow Joe Betance on Twitter and Instagram at Joe Betance. This episode was produced by Zach Birch. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.